Hold tight.
Will?
The first flare was the start of the quiet apocalypse. For the protagonists, this would be the beginning of an adventure through the cold, merciless wilderness of Great Bear Island. After just reuniting for the first time in years, Will and Astrid would find themselves separated by the events that sparked the end of the world. The night following the first flare was called the Night of the Lights by Grandmother. This was a fitting name for what happened that night in the forgotten town of Milton.
All I know is that I heard screams and could smell smoke for most of the night. They said there were houses burning in the town.
The townspeople and other survivors coming from the highway would all gather in the town. Panic would ensue as there was no power, no heat, and no easy way out of Milton. To make matters worse, the Night of the Lights would earn its name from the follow-up Aurora events that sparked electrical fires. The town would see multiple houses burn, causing a frenzy. The survivor would attempt to convince Grandmother to leave with them on foot to the highway, but she stayed behind. Just as the first flare hit, a bus full of prisoners crashed into the tunnel north of Milton, causing the roof of the tunnel to collapse. The front of the bus would be crushed, killing some of the prisoners. It is clear though that some of them made it out alive and through the tunnel based on the fact they can be found in every episode of the game so far. With this tunnel being the only way out of Milton, the prisoners stuck on the Milton side would have only one option.
And then something happened to the lights. The power. It was like sparks everywhere and then fire.
Astrid wakes up after the crash. She notices that Will is not in the cockpit of the plane. She leaves the plane, leaving behind the valuable briefcase that needed to get to Perseverance Mills, and looks for help. After leaving behind cloth markers to find her way back to the plane, Astrid finds the town of Milton. Arriving in town, the prisoners would easily force the survivors into the schoolhouse. An aurora occurs, sparking another electrical fire. This time, the schoolhouse begins to burn with almost all the survivors trapped inside. Astrid arrives and frantically tries to get the survivors out. She runs across town, yelling for help. Of course, no one could help since everyone except for Grandmother was trapped in the fire.
If you so much as heard...
We barely clipped her wings. She wasn't hurt too bad.
Astrid, after watching the entire town of Milton die in the schoolhouse fire, attacks the prisoners. She shanks one of them before running away. The remaining prisoners pursue her across town at the collapsed tunnel. There, she continues to fight them off. She stabs a prisoner named Hobbs with a knife. At some point in time, she is significantly injured. Astrid somehow makes it to the top of the crushed bus and gets inside. Just before escaping through the tunnel, she leaves behind the word Perseverance in her own blood. I believe she had some hope that Will was still alive somewhere and would find this clue.
Everyone thinks being old means you're weak, but they underestimated Grandmother.
At some point during the night, the prisoners would return to Milton. There, the only sign of life left behind would be the smoke coming up from Grandmother's home. The entire night, Grandmother would listen to everything happening in town, unable to do anything to help. Her home is eventually invaded by the prisoners. They manage to sneak in and take a majority of her supplies. Unfortunately for one of the prisoners, Grandmother had a keen sense of hearing and excellent aim. She shot one of the prisoners, scaring off the rest. The prisoner that was shot dies in a shed just outside her home. Hobbs would eventually find his way to the old Barker farmhouse outside of Milton. Thus ends the Night of the Lights, the tragic story of the end of Milton. This town was once home to over 1,000 people in the 1980s, but would drop down to a few dozen by the year 2022, assuming my estimate for the timing of the first flare is correct. Following the Night of the Lights, it would drop down to just one. Grandmother, the only one from the old days, would be the sole survivor of the Milton tragedy. In the next video, I will be sharing the full story of the events of Wintermute Episode 1, from the moment Will Mackenzie awakens after the plane crash to his departure from Milton. Do Not Go Gentle is where the story of Wintermute officially begins. If you want to see more videos like this, please don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Also, if you can spare a few bucks, you can become a member to help support the channel a little bit more. Shout out to my current members.
You hurt my friend. Maybe even killed her for all I know. You scared an old lady half to death. You let all those people die. A knife in the gut is the best it's ever gonna get for you.